Well, thank you very much for joining what promises to be a superb set of sessions, all focusing on getting the customer experience right. I'd like to personally welcome you to Tealium's virtual conference, Digital Virtuosity. And together we're going to consider how getting the right data strategy has the right impact on your customer experience strategy. And this is, I think, is something that people often consider as really important, but something that is only recognized as the importance of it maybe 2/3 of the way down the customer success strategy or customer experience strategy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cover some aspects of what a data strategy should look like in order to achieve this, and the common kind of customer experience use cases that people look to try and strive towards and complete successfully. So I'd like you to ask yourself as we go through the first bit of this content to think about, what kind of CX initiatives am I striving for? Have I achieved them in the way that I hope to? What ones are on my list that I would like to try? And I've picked 4. These are a good 4 for us to be considering, because I want to think about, and for us to think about, the common aims that run across these, and also the common pitfalls that comes with those, or common challenges. So first one, unburdening my call center. Well, I think if any of the time now to be able to do that. The amount of emails I've been getting more recently about how our call centers are kind of at full capacity, and here's lots of other ways in which you communicate with us, and we want to be able to make sure we can help you as well as possible. It's a great time to really kind of focus on this kind of initiative. And when we think about this kind of initiative, the main aims are, in one sense, reduce pressure on the call center. It's so easy for us to pick up the phone and seek to get some conversation with somebody to solve a problem. But actually, a lot of that can be done in other alternative touch points. Now, I think with these aims, we always look to try and achieve that without pushing people from one channel to a next, where it isn't actually appropriate for them as a person, as opposed to anything else. And that requires understanding their kind of needs and who they are to be able to make that kind of decision. And of course, we want to provide great customer value as brands. But we're ever looking to ways of doing that at a cost that allows us to be able to provide good value and a good cost to the business as well that we run. So there's the most common aims of doing that. And there's lots of other smaller ones within this, like net scores on what we want to try and achieve through the call center and kind of like the call ratios, etc. But these high-level aims are there. And when we think about the challenges that it presents itself, and we look at these kind of things, one of the key ones which often we overlook is actually measuring the effectiveness of this. Because if you go and track it back in your mind, in order to know whether moving someone from a call center channel to a different channel to fulfill a concern or thing that they want to complete, you have to know that person and recognize them across the different ways they engage with you as a brand. So measuring the effectiveness isn't just a case of volumes going up or down, it's actually looking at whether people are moving across different channels, and if so, why are they doing that? To do that, people often want to provide kind of self-service adoption by tailoring incentives to them. And knowing your consumer, knowing them well, requires you to be able to incentivize them in the way that makes most sense for them. That's commonly a challenge, as we don't necessarily have all the information about consumers at our fingertips. Another one as we look at this is churn prevention. So we want to kind of maintain the customer base that we have, whether that be through an e-commerce where we want people to have brand loyalty with us, or whether a subscription-based business where we want to ensure that people continue to renew. The aims of this are very often to be able to assess and work out whether we do know if someone's likely to do that. And so one of the main aims behind this is to be able to predict that as a business. And often we want to do that in reality because we want to be able to intercept the likelihood and do something to prevent that from happening. And of course, doing that is to protect our existing revenue. That's quite clearly one of the main aims of churn prevention. When we think about it, it's really to be able to make sure that what we're providing to our customers, whether it be by product or service, is really there to ensure that they feel like they're getting good exchange of value for their dollar, for their pound, for their euro, to ensure that we have a good relationship and maintain that with our customers. And when you think about the challenges behind some of these things, just predicting customer likelihood requires clean, accurate data to give to a prediction model or prediction capability that you have. It's not going to work off dirty data or data that's unpredictable or not ready for use in that way. And often that is a big stumbling block, just getting that data ready in time for things like those kind of initiatives. And when we also think about maintaining relevance, it's knowing our customer and their interest, not just their transactions, which are important as well. So as we think about that, from almost the converse to avoiding churn, and we think about repeat purchase, it really is about ensuring loyalty. And now, as well, as we think about how many companies have accelerated any existing digital transformation program, having that kind of ability to be able to kind of recognize and understand how you can gain or maintain share of wallet, or maybe front of wallet. So share of wallet is often where we have like repeat purchases that we can't do without, and so it's about how much we spend of our own money on one brand or another. And front of wallet is where we are really thinking about, okay, who is the first place I'm going to go to for this thing? And so as we think about repeat purchases, this is where we want our brand to be. We want it to be front of mind. We want it to be the place that people trust. And behind this is obviously the desire for increased revenue for existing customers, but ultimately satisfaction as well of the customer and what they get from our brand. And so some kind of more finer points around common challenges for things like this is recognizing people across different channels so that we can ensure that we're giving them the right experience as they traverse across those channels and speak to us in different ways. When we consider as well, like it's kind of point of truth for relevant communication. So there will be plenty of times where in the moment whilst online or in the moment while on a phone call, we need to have the right information so that we can provide the exact communication that is needed to ensure that the customer recognizes that we know how they've been communicating with us in the past and we're taking that into account. And we'll talk more about this a little bit later, but the idea of having the ability to really have a solid conversation powered through data is a powerful one, which our brands can really leverage to stay ahead of the field. So as we think about this final one, smooth mobile customer experience, we can think of both obviously commerce and services to be able to, I think of my utility providers. I use their app to be able to do live chat with them to solve problems as well, which is fantastic. And whether that be us on the go or in an armchair going nowhere, we have our phones with us. They are a personal item to us. And so as businesses, we want to provide this easy service in someone's hand, but it's just needs to be relevant to them. It needs to be remove friction from what they otherwise would be able to do elsewhere. And it really ensures that they understand that when they share information with us, sometimes personal, like location, for example, that we're being good stewards of that data and we're using it wisely. Often we forget that our consumers are willing to share information with us, either on the expectation that we will provide good customer experience at the back of it, or at least believe and trust that we will look after their data and use it relevantly. And so one or two of the common challenges you see in mobile is really looking at making sure that even just that digital experience between desktop and mobile is a joined up one, which is and provides them a seamless experience as they go from maybe the mobile and then finalizing on desktop, because that bigger screen helps them make a final decision. And often as well with mobile, you have to add in different technologies to achieve different things, whether that be personalization or push notifications or analytics, for example. And each of those things have a performance trade-off to the personalization you want to provide. And so ensuring that you really maximize the message that you give is very important. And as we all know, if you create a mobile app, you have to submit it to an app store of some sort. And when you do that, you need to keep resubmitting it when you make significant changes. So new technologies that you want to use would not often be one of those. So picking a technology partner that helps you move between different technologies that you want to try in your mobile app without having to submit to the app store is obviously a big win to move things forward. So when we think about those kind of strategies and we see both the aims and some of the challenges, I think we can see that really there's a data strategy either in our business just waiting to get out and be unleashed to kind of power these customer experiences that we want to achieve. But ultimately this data is there and is needed, and we need to be able to harness it. So when we say we need to be able to harness it, what do we mean? Well, I think what I want to do now is just go through 4 or 5 ways or types of information or types of things that we can think about when we think about the data strategy. So one of them is what we're seeing in front of us now, data sources that have information about our customers that we have gathered and they have shared with us. And the list in one sense is very obvious, right? So all the ways they engage with us as a brand, or all the ways we seek to reach out to them, and have that data stored there. I think the main thing for us to remember though is that this information that we are collecting from web or call center or CRM or data lake or elsewhere is really a representation of a conversation that we're having. And I'm sure that we, in some times or others, have all been guilty of fading out of conversations with people and coming right back at maybe a keyword or something like that to show that we have still been listening. And I think we can see that if we don't account for all the ways in which we have collected information about our customers' engagement with us, and we ignore some of that, it's a little bit really like saying some parts of the conversation they were having with us just weren't important. And so they're going to start feeling that they're not listened to as consumers as well. So really as a business, take some time to think about and make sure that those sources of data that you have out there are all considered, are all listed, and are put into practice and brought together. And the aim of bringing the information together ultimately is to make sure that we can identify the people that are communicating to us and identify them across those data sources in a reliable and trusted way. And so I've been saying customer or consumer a lot, and I want to just make it really obvious, I suppose, is that we're not just talking about people that have already given us, I don't know, a purchase or a subscription and therefore provided some kind of login ID or customer record. We're talking about anonymous people who are maybe browsing our site or calling us for the first time. They are just as important when we come to think about recognizing people, even in an anonymous way, because we can still build up, we can maintain that forward momentum of building up a view of who they are. And to do that, we need those identifiers. We need to identify what it is that we need to identify people. And most common things when it comes to recognizing a person is some kind of personal identifier, such as email or phone number. I know some of our customers that use a concatenation of various parts like an address and other identifiers together because that makes sense for their brand or their business. And ultimately just identifying what they are and seeking to make sure that our customers see a value in them sharing that with us, whether that be from a zero-party perspective or not. And that's really why I want to make the point about consent at this point, because when people choose to share information that would identify them, they are only really going to do that if they trust in how you're going to handle their data. And obviously needing to ask for consent wherever we are in the world pretty much now is a regulatory requirement. And so by having that consent in place and people trusting us that the purpose we are collecting their data will be adhered to, we will then be a better position to be able to talk to our customers in a more direct way. Now, to be able to talk in a direct way means it's talking in a relevant way. And so this is where we need to ensure that we have a good understanding of what is considered good characteristics to recognize about a person when we are speaking with them. And in real life with our friends and our family, we could probably list the characteristics about some of our friends and family that would really mark them out. And it's the same for our customers. We would want to be able to understand what's important for our business to know of. And when I say our business, it needs to be all the teams that need to engage with this customer profile. Because after all, you're not going to get all the teams engaging on it if they don't feel like it is something they can trust, something that is defined around what they need as well. And so it's important that we consider those kind of things when we look at the customer characteristics. And above all anything else, at the very least, by having a good broad view of our customer and their characteristics, we're really fueling our analytics, and whether that be customer analytics, maybe we do that in a data lake, or whether that be further advanced predictive machine learning or even AI analytics. Again, all of this needs to be fueled by a good recognition and also a good suite of attributes about the person as well. Now, in the end, if we were to stop there, I will be talking to you about a great analytics data set that you have built out. But really what we need to be doing here is reminding ourselves that the customer experience is not just about the analytics to identify the segments or groups or the interests that people have and to ensure that we speak to that. It is there so that we can actually return the conversation back to them. And so when we think of that, we think of obviously using different MarTech or AdTech technologies to be able to communicate in a way that is relevant. Now, whether that be on-site personalization or in-app messaging, in the end, what we really want to do is have that view, that centralized view of a person, bang in the middle in a hub and spoke way so it can be communicated out to all the other technologies that we want to operate with. We've already, after all, purchased them. We've put investment into them. So we need to kind of sweat that tech asset that we have. And the best way to do that is make sure that they're all speaking about the same customer to the same customer on our behalf as a brand. And I think by ensuring that our teams are working off the same data, it means that actually they can be less fraught or concerned about whether they've got the right customers in their technologies to be able to talk to them, and whether there's consent applied, because that's already been done centrally before they received it. And instead, they can really kind of focus on the creativity they want to apply to those campaigns, to those activations, to that messaging that they're doing. And so the data and the people that are kind of curated from that and recognition of them is something that really kind of fuels those teams and empowers them. So that orchestration at the center really allows you to be able to deliver what it is you're trying to achieve at scale. Because if you think about the opposite is you have the data about all your customers copied almost in a best possible way in every different technology. And so therefore, you're not sure they all know about the same thing. That's the first thing. And secondly, if you want to apply a strategy, you have to do it in 9 different places rather than 1 in the middle and then distribute that strategy out. So as we kind of further think about that and this kind of distribution out and the idea of having a conversation constantly and where data represents that conversation, that real-time feedback loop is essential. Because after all, if we send a message out, whether it be digital advertising or on-site personalization, all of those kind of ways, it's important to understand the reaction that comes from that. So sending an email and someone's opened it but not clicked through, have they done that? Have they seen our digital advertising, let alone clicked on it? What do they think of creative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within that particular part of the journey when it comes to the on-site personalization? So remaining attentive, looking for those signals back from our customers so we can understand what their preferences are, what they thought of how we communicated with them is essential. And some of those initiatives, especially the mobile ones, I would say, particularly, they need us to know that in the moment. Okay, so in those situations, it's more like instant messaging. But whereas in other situations, it might be that it'll be okay for us to know that in, say, an hour or 6 hours or 12 or 24 hours. So it doesn't have to be an instant messaging kind of scenario with our customers. But ultimately, that idea of needing to do things at speed to ensure that we have the understanding for when we do need to communicate back is really important. And as you can imagine, with all the different technologies we can pick from, whether global vendors we use for marketing or ad tech, or niche partners or technologies, in our local region, when we want to try and bring that data together against a single view of the customer and kind of have that feedback loop, we need to work with a technology that is a partner to us and not just a supplier of technology. And that's simply because all those integrations over time, that you'll need to work with a partner to make sure that it's complete for you. Tealium, as I'm sure you're probably aware, has over 1,200 integrations and many more as we continue to build out our roadmap of those on a continual basis. And we work as a technology partnership with each of our customers as they seek to try new vendors out. We seek to make sure that we provide them the speedy integration that they need to maintain what they're trying to do and drive their business. And I thought I'd leave this one till last because, and there's a couple of reasons for that really. One is any strategy that you have around customer experience or data strategy is not solved with machine learning. It is boosted by machine learning. And I'm a bit of a petrol head, so I'm going to go with a nitrous oxide as an example of this. So you can apply nitrous oxide to a car, and essentially, after it gets to a certain kind of speed and temperature, etc., the nitrous oxide kicks in, and at that point, it kind of really gives the car a boost. Yay! And it's a bit like that with our data strategy and our customer experience strategy. Really, you can't really apply machine learning to a car that is not fully built yet or hasn't got the robustness to be able to handle it. And so if you think that machine learning can kind of fix the issues in your strategy, all it's really going to do is it's going to highlight those issues as you try and kind of move things faster. And so one of the common things I speak about when I talk to people about using machine learning is make sure you get your data strategy right first so that you can actually pass that data you created from that strategy can be passed into machine learning capabilities, whether that's off the shelf or whether that be something you build yourself inside your data practice. Whatever you're planning on doing with this, make sure it's something that you plan for the future with your machine learning by getting your data right. And if you have already embarked on this and you started building models and you've done your whole load of testing and it's looking good and you want to kind of apply that, you will have hit the next point, which is I've got my insight, I need to move into action. And what commonly can happen is that you then go back to the clunky world of kind of get that distributed to your different technologies so they can leverage it, rather than having a streamlined way of taking insight, applying it once in the center, like we talked about, and then making sure that it all goes out to the rest of our technologies. And that's why we really see many of our customers that we have both a data practice where they build machine learning themselves, as well as leveraging stuff inside the Tealium capabilities around that to bring it together, whether that be Tealium giving good, clean, accurate data, or whether it's giving a stitched person with the characteristics that they need for their machine learning, all the way through to providing the real-time piping to be able to take that insight and apply it to a person, and then ensure that the whole audience and orchestration of what should be spoken to that customer about is achieved in one fell swoop. And so as you consider machine learning to boost your strategy around this, remember it's something that is there to enhance, and it's there that needs a little bit of work to make sure that it gives you great dividends back. And so we've gone across these points. We've had a look at the fact that all data sources matter with customer data, that we want to orchestrate that customer that we recognize with the characteristics that our teams trust, so that we can have a conversation at the speed at which our customer wants to, and ultimately we can then enhance what we're doing when we start considering machine learning capabilities. Now, why is that data strategy so important? Well, I think we've covered some of those things by looking at the strategy itself. In and of itself, it sounds and looks and clearly is an important thing for us to address as a business. After all, a data strategy is what underpins a digital transformation strategy. So we just want to kind of almost recap in a way and have a look at why it is so important. So if you look at the initiatives that we were discussing at the very beginning, some of the common threads that you see in that are the desire for the right timing. So we saw that in things like repeat purchase, when someone's in that moment of deciding online maybe, and having the right message right then, because we know about historical transactions and interests, we can bring that to bear. Or whether that be the relevance of the message and the timing of it, the content itself and the channel on which we do it, knowing their preferences. Now, just kind of, I guess, almost kind of whittle down to like a bare minimum, as it were, of the common issues that you see across those. And one of those is actually just recognizing the person across channels, to be able to know that you're talking to the same person, know that they're a customer as opposed to not. Often having data that is spread around our business and not connected, meaning that we aren't able to actually recognize that person or even bring all the information they've been sharing with us together in a way that allows us to speak back to them in a clear way. And if we do bring it all together, we often find that we've done that, but then we don't have the connections to all our ad tech or our martech in order to be able to activate and leverage the conversation that everyone is seeking to have with us. And then finally, that content, as it's not relevant or when it isn't relevant, it's because we haven't got enough context to be able to achieve that. And so really what I wanted to highlight today is that when we consider some of these things, some of the hardest things to get right, but can be simply done with a good choice of a customer data platform, is ensuring that you have real-time visitor stitching. So that is recognizing the person in the moment and continue to do that as they continue to embark on a conversation with us over weeks, months, years ahead. But also to be able to have that view of the customer, which all teams in our businesses trust to be able to use and believe it is of value to them. Because by doing that, you will be able to achieve that orchestration at scale. And you can do that with both a real-time engine for audience activation, but also the actual integrations ready to go for business users to be able to leverage inside a platform. So I just want to say thank you very much indeed for taking time to go through this session with me. And I'm sure you'll absolutely have a wonderful time on the remaining sessions and Digital Virtuosity.